Legend of Total War here, and today I'd like to do a casual review on Anno 1800. I'd like to give a big thank you to Ubisoft for getting in touch with me and providing me with some early access to this preview build. The communication was awesome, and you made the whole process a pleasure. So, right off the bat, what do I think of 1800? I have thoroughly enjoyed my time playing this game so far. Now, I'm a newcomer to the franchise, so this is my first Anno game. This is, I think, the 7th game in the franchise, and I think it's hit the nail on the head with a lot of things. Now, I'm aware that as a newcomer to the franchise, I'm probably not the best person to be saying to already established Anno fans that this is, the best Anno game ever. I don't know that for a fact. So what I've done is I've gone and purchased Anno 1404, which I believe is one of the highest Anno games, and I'm going to be comparing Anno 1800 with that. So I played Anno 1404 for a fair amount of time in order to properly compare it, so that I can get a difference, see how much the Anno franchise has evolved, because I think that's important as well, to see how much the franchise has evolved, rather than just looking at it as a standalone game. If you've never played an Anno game before, and you like city building games with naval combat, where you manage a thriving economy, or, plummeting economy, depending on how competent you are with it, this is an excellent game. But, for established Anno fans, I'd also like to review this game for you guys as well, so that's why I went and purchased Anno 1404. So, in my time playing both of them, what do I like more, Anno 1404 or Anno 1800? I will say that I thoroughly enjoyed playing Anno 1404. I think it's a really good game. But I will say that Anno 1800, I think, just does a few things better. There are some things that are not in Anno 1800 that are in Anno 1404. And there are also some things in Anno 1800 that aren't in Anno 1404. So the games do have some differences, but overall, the content. What I've found so far is that all of the content in Anno 1800, it all sort of blends together in a harmony. You need a bit of everything. From managing your managing your population to your resource managing. It all sort of blends together in economy. There's no sort of this thing that just sticks out like a sore thumb that you just have to do every now and again, because reasons. Everything has a progression to it. So you start off and you're working with your farmers, and I need fish. Okay, cool, get the fish, and then you get the work clothes. So you need to make sheep, and then you turn the cloth into clothes. Okay, cool. Then I ascend it. Okay, now I've got some other resources that I need to start working on, and that's how it goes. As you continue to play the game, more things get unlocked, and the progression is steady. So you're constantly doing different things, constantly trying to find new resources. So another thing is that, for those of you who aren't familiar with the Anno games, it's not supposed to be like historically accurate or accurate geography territory. They're randomly generated maps, and it's mostly based on island hopping, essentially. But you start off with one island, and most of the time, actually pretty much every time, the island that you start off with has to be have grain fertility and potato fertility, because those are, it wouldn't make sense showing up here and you can build oil wells here. You're not going to need that at the beginning of the campaign. So you've got once you've gotten beyond this point with needing other resources, you start working towards going to other islands to get those resources. So if we have a look over here, this island here has access to hops fertility and red pepper fertility. So there's higher tier resources, and I'm producing enough here to supply all of my islands. And what I do is I just import them through charters. And the way that happens through the game, if I wanted to create a new charter, it's really easy. So these are my current charters, but if I was just to create another one, okay, so I create a charter row, select the resources that I want. So I want to select red pepper. So it picks up from here, because that's where the fertility is, and you can see what's available. Pick up from here, send to there, please send. Oops, oh, god damn it. Wrong thing. And it's as simple as that. So now what's going to happen is that this place here that doesn't have any red peppers, once the ship arrives, it'll show up. There's the ship here. Okay, I don't have to control it. It's automated. But if I want to, I can send my own ships to do it manually. So it's entirely up to you. If you want to micromanage the way you sort out your charters, you can totally do that. Or you could have it done automatically. It gives you the choice to do that, which I really like. Now, in 1404, you have to, if you want to set up a charter, you have to have your own ship sorted out, which is fine. But I think the system is better because, you know, that ship there, I pay for it, but I don't have to do anything with it. It's just a neutral power, and I think that's cool. Like I said, you got the option to do things. I think that's a great thing about strategy games, right? When you've got options, the game just doesn't hold your hand and be like, no, you have to do things one way, and if you don't do it this one way, then you're not allowed to do it. The game doesn't hold your hand and be like, well, if you don't want to do it that way, you don't have to. And it's the same with the way you build your resources. You know, I'm a bit anal when it comes to how I like to do things. I like to really use up every tile of resource. I don't like to have any tiles just sitting there with a tree on it. You know, I want to build something that's gonna produce something there. So if we have a look into that, looking into grain as an example, okay, and not every resources generation is like this. Now I've got the fertility here, so it's not gonna be a problem. We purchase the farm down, make sure it's connected to a road, and then we put down the fields. Now in 1404, they come in like 4x4 plots, and they have to be very close to the settlement. But in this, not with the grain at least, with like the sheep, they do have to be close to the settlement. But I do find that the margin for error is a lot more flexible in Anno 1800 than it is in 1404. Because if we have a look over here, I'll come back to that. If we have a look over here, I've utilized just about all the space here, whereas in Anno 1404, I do find that a lot of the time, there's space where there's just nothing there. I'm just like, I just can't seem to get the optimization for it. So something that you can do, and you don't have to do this. You can, as long as it's connected, whoops, we could put this in places where I'm, quite frankly, not going to build anything else. And there we go. And that way, it's still producing everything that it needs to, but without taking up unwanted space, essentially. So I really like that you can do that. Again, you don't have to do that, but the game gives you the option to do that. As long as the plot is connected to the farm, you're good. And it's the same thing with the road system. Whereas in Anno 1404, if I also look at the warehouse, right? The warehouses in Anno 1404 have like a sphere of influence, okay? But in this, it's a case of the roads. So we can see here that this clay pit can access any building that needs it. So we use this to make bricks. So it can either send this to the brick house, what's it called? The brick factory, or it can send it to the warehouse. So what you could do, if you don't really want to put a so let's just do an example. If I was to get rid of this and this, right? Suddenly, this one here doesn't have... Let's just start it from scratch, right? This one here no longer has a... it doesn't have anywhere to deposit its stuff. So, what I can do, I can put a brick factory. We check where its edge of its movement is. I'm not saying this is ideal, but it's something that you can do. You can put it there, so that way, a cart will send bricks, clay over to here, so they can turn to bricks. And then if I want to store it, well, I've got another warehouse over here. So clay from here will eventually daisy chain its way all the way to there. But if you want to put it all close together, you totally can. The game gives you the option to do that. So that's why I think that, in my personal opinion, Anno 1800 is better than Anno 1404. Not to say that Anno 1404 is a bad game, but in terms of the economic management stuff, it has just been a joy in Anno 1800 to just manage this stuff, because I feel like I've got the freedom to do what I want to do. I may not be doing things how you want me to do them, I may not be doing things optimally, but god damn it, I'm doing it how I want to do it, and the game is not punishing me for doing so. Everything is connected, and you know, this little sympathy just means that I've overproduced. I'm producing more than I need, and you know, I could sell it if I wanted to. I can create a trade route, or I could do it manually, creating a trade route with a neutral power in order to sell goods that I produce a lot of, in order to make additional income. But most of your income comes from actual population. Providing them with their needs is where the money comes from. Now, in terms of the population, there are going to be 5. Just wait for him to finish speaking. Okay, there are going to be 5 different types of populations, but in this preview build, I've only got access to the first 3 tiers. So we've got the farmers, the workers, the artisans, and then there will be 2 more. So even with all the time that I've spent on this campaign, which I don't know, I've spent quite 22 hours. Oh my god, I can't believe how much time I've spent on this. There would be, you know, most of this is of course learning how to play the game as well. So I'm not going to sit here and say that, oh yeah, I handled this in record time. No, there was a lot of bumbling around. I had to learn how to play the game. So take that with a pinch of salt. You can build a settlement like this relatively quickly if you know what you're doing, which I didn't, you know, first playing it. Like I said, it's my first Anno game. But anyway, another thing that I was able to do as well is just like, if I wasn't at war with anyone, I would often just be like, oh, I'll just wait for my resources to fill up. I just walked away from the computer, got a sandwich or whatever, and then came back and be like, okay, cool, I got some money again, and then continue going on. Because another thing about this is I've actually put everything on, like, as much as possible on the hardest difficulty, to really see what the challenge of the campaign was. And the AI really did put up a fight. At one point, I was this close to losing the campaign. This is my main port here, and this woman here, who belongs in a nursing home, I'm just being mean. She was this close to capturing my port, and I was like, and luckily my fleet, because my fleet was fighting someone else, and where are they at the moment? They're over here. So let's just say they were over here, and it just took them a while to get back, as my defenses were starting to get overrun. Very close to surrender, but they showed up just in time to repel her attack. It was very close. And at one point as well, I was hemorrhaging cash because they were blockading all my ports. But I've reached the point in the campaign now where I've actually conquered most of their ports. I don't actually need these places, I just conquered them. This is why I've got minus 400 influence, because you need influence in order to occupy ports. So I've actually, and you do get more influence over time. So looking at that, as you get more population, you get more influence, but you're not supposed to necessarily be able to occupy every single island, but you can have a negative. Now, if I want to get rid of a particular island and free up some influence, I can totally do that. I just press the delete key and just off you go, and that freed up some influence. That's a fairly tiny island, so it's all relative. If I was to destroy a much larger island like this one here, which I don't want to do, I've put resources here. This is where all my grain's coming from. Look how optimal this is, you know? Not a single space is wasted. This is someone like me, someone who's OCD about using up everything. This is a wet dream for someone like me to be able to do, to just squeeze the efficiency out of it. This was good, and this didn't take me very long to set up as well. But I make so much grain here, and all this grain goes into, you know, making loads of bread and beer to satisfy all of my islands. Now I do have some grain here. This one here makes its own bread, but it imports the beer. The beer is all made from here. So I send the beer over here, and I got the hops being made here, which is the main ingredient. So if you look here, we need input hops. And malt. Malt is made from grain. So, you know, it's a very sensible economic system. And like I said, and you can tell by my voice, it was exciting. Every time I was accessing a new resource, it was exciting, and I thoroughly enjoyed it. I tell you what, the biggest disappointment in this game is so far: the fact that I can't access some of these resources because they're on the map, and I'm just like, where's the building for it? Oh, it's not in the game yet. God damn it! And so, you know, I can't wait for it to come out, and so that I can, you know, continue my expansion. That's going to be really awesome. Now, military-wise, what do we do? Now, in 1404, you can build land forces, which is not in Anno 1800. You don't build trebuchets or cannons or anything like that on the land. If you want to conquer somebody else's island, this is what you do. Now, I believe I've got a peace treaty with this guy here, so let's go into diplomacy and tell him that I've had enough of his crap.
Alonso can be defeated. by watertight strap.
Fleet embarking.
And let's sort that out. So I'll just let them do their thing. They won't lose. I mean, I got a whole bunch of ship of the line. So if, in terms of shipbuilding as well, so I've got these are the different types of ships. They do take influence. So luckily I purchased these ships before I started going overboard with the influence. But like I said, if I wanted to, I could just demolish those islands. It's not a big deal.
Ship under attack.
And they require certain resources. You build the wood. We get the wood. You have to build the sails, and you have to build cannons. So I build all my cannons over here in my steel mill. So I specialize every island. And you don't have to specialize your islands. If you want to have a steel mill in every one of your islands, you totally can. But steel mills make the place really ugly. So every province has every island has a certain amount of attractiveness. And I don't fully understand exactly what it does, but I wanted to make some of my islands attractive. So this island here is basically Dump Island. I make everything here that's basically unpleasant, and just accept the fact that these people live in shit conditions. How are they going over there? So that all of my other islands, there we go, all of my other islands can live in paradise, you know? Or I could have spread it out evenly, but I decided not to do that. Now, I've gained all of his shares in the island. I can conquer the island, or I can just accept the fact that I'm not going to conquer it, but I'll take all of his income. So, what will I do? Let's just conquer it. And what that does, it demolishes all of his buildings, but I've got the island. And that's why I've used up so much of my influence. I don't know if they're going to change that come when it's released. But honestly, I don't have a problem with how this works, because this means that if I ever lose my ships, I literally have to demolish my this port here, which, you know, if we want to, we can totally do that in order to get my influence back down. So again, it depends on how you want to play. The game doesn't hold your hand, and I love that. I don't want it to hold my hand. I want to do what I want to do, and I don't want the game to be like, you know, you got to do things this way. And it for me, that's what a sandbox experience is all about. Just the game says, these are the mechanics, go and have some fun. And that's what this game's all about, and I love that. But, you know, I am a newcomer to the franchise, and every time you find a new franchise that seems fresh, even though it may have been established for more than a decade, it can seem that way. I don't know what people who have been playing Anno games for 10 years are going to feel about this game. I can only tell you how I feel about it, and how I feel about it compared to Anno 1404. I like both games, I really do, but I think Anno 1800's better, and that's honest. If I didn't think so, I'd tell you. You guys know that I would. I've gotten blacklisted from stuff for being too honest about these things before. And I will continue playing this game when it comes out. So, like I said, thoroughly enjoyed it. Now I can go into a bit more detail as to what more is in the game. Actually, there is one more thing I should talk about. And that's the two different theaters. So, there's the old world, there's one map, and then there's also the new world. Now, these are not supposed to be like geographically accurate territories. This isn't supposed to be the actual Caribbean. These are randomly generated maps. I'm sure, I don't know if there's going to be mods that will include historically accurate maps. I have no idea. I don't know what the modding scene is like with Anno 1404. But anyway, just in terms of the vanilla base game, I think the content available is plenty. Like I said, I've already sunk 22 hours into this campaign alone. And I could easily see myself playing another 10 hours into this particular sandbox experience. No problem. Anyway, in the new world, you produce different resources and export them to the old world so that you can go up through the tiers. But I didn't really need it too much in this, because I think the higher tier populations are really going to need some of the stuff. And, you know, the technology goes all the way up to, like, oil resources. So I think they're going to have ironclad ships available at the end. And there's even electricity at the end of things as well. But again, it all depends on what they're actually going to produce. This is from what I'm just seeing so far. So I can only really judge it on what I'm seeing so far. And, you know, like I said, I've thoroughly enjoyed it. I liked the freedom, the way it plays, and the AI. It put up a good challenge for a noob like me. I'm sure people who are experts at the game be like, oh, the AI is dumb. Well, everybody who's played a game for 10 years will eventually find out the weakness of the AI. But like I said, the AI nearly beat me on this. They strangleholded me. I only just managed to get through, and it was a lot of fun. And again, this is at the end of the campaign. Anyway, so I don't know if that appeals to you guys, but I thoroughly enjoyed it. And I hope this review, at the very least, helps you make a decision on whether or not you want to purchase this game. As a newcomer to the franchise, I certainly would like to play more Anno games in the future. It just depends on on my schedule. But anyway, big thank you once again to Ubisoft for allowing me access to this. I'm certainly going to be keeping an eye on the Anno franchise from here on out, and that's the end of this review. So overall, obviously a positive review. I'm not going to give it a score out of 10 because I haven't actually played the whole game yet, which is why I said at the beginning it's a casual review, because I've been playing it casually and enjoying the experience. Anyway, that's the end of this video, and I'll see you next time, fuckers.